Hey, good morning. This is Steve Vest, your host for Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 show allows you, the voter, to hear directly from the candidates on their views on issues important to you. This is leading up to the general election on November 5th. We took questions from the community via email and social media, so let's jump right in. Today's guest is Mayor Layne Wilkerson, candidate for mayor.
Good morning, Steve.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for dropping by.
Of course, I appreciate the opportunity for you to be here and to ask questions, and for Cable 10, of course, to continue this service to the City of Frankfort.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, our first one's a really difficult one. It's your chance just to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're choosing to run again for mayor.
Well, I appreciate that. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Layne Wilkerson. I'm the mayor of Frankfort. And I'm born and raised in Frankfort. I was born at the old King's Daughters Hospital down off 2nd Street, and grew up here, went to public schools, went to Bridgeport, Bondurant, Western Hills. As you know, played some sports during those years, and carried
we were teammates.
We were teammates at Western Hills. Many people don't know that. We'll have to tell that story one day. And it's good that we're back here many years later in this capacity, which is it's a neat full circle. And but I did carry that on to play baseball at Kentucky State University for my freshman year, and then transferred to Western Kentucky. Upon graduating, I moved to Louisville, moved to Chicago, started my career as a financial advisor, worked for some large companies like American Express, AXA Advisors, and but about 20 years ago, I moved back to Frankfort, made the decision because I met my now wife, Natalie, who's also from Frankfort, and she had lived in other cities as well. And really, I owe it to her. She thought that living in Frankfort and putting our roots here would be the best thing. And in hindsight, it has been the best thing. And always trust your spouse on that. And so we have now we're raising 3 daughters, teenage daughters now. We have one who's a freshman in college, and we have 2 who go to Frankfort High. Okay. So we're navigating the adventures of doing that, and of course we have a cat and a dog as well. So that we have a full house. But a few years ago, my wife Natalie and I, we've been involved in projects in Frankfort, trying to improve Frankfort. We started fixing up older buildings when they were in disrepair or condemned. We stepped in, and we just wanted to make sure that those buildings were saved, and that we could put businesses in there. And that started our commitment to investing in Frankfort, and then started serving on boards, took leadership positions in boards, and eventually PUSH or Franklin County Community Fund to help start that, the Capital City Museum Board. And through those relationships, I started to think this might lead to something else, and I started to consider running for office. And when I started to think about that, I thought, well, City Commission would be where I would start. But after talking to people that I trust and respect, it was strongly suggested that if I'm going to do this, you might as well run for mayor. Bill May was not going to run again, so there was an opening, and the rest, they say, is history. When I became mayor, I didn't expect to come into a situation like COVID. That was our first year as mayor and as a commission. And the resulting loss in tax revenue that we had, and meeting virtually, it just made it more difficult. But I'm happy to say that here we are 3.5 years later, and Frankfort's really on the verge of a transformation, and we're seeing a remarkable amount of investing in our city. And I think that's because I have that mindset that we need to invest in Frankfort's future.
All right. Now, this will be your second or third term?
Second.
This will be your second term. So you don't necessarily need to apply for a COVID year.
No, I don't. That's a good question. I think about that. Like, should I redshirt that freshman year? No, we don't have a COVID year, but we did have our hands kind of behind our backs there, or at least one hand behind our back when we were doing that. But no.
Okay. Well, so tell us about what has your experience thus far prepared you for the future?
Well, I think before I was mayor, being a financial advisor and building a successful practice in Frankfort, we now have a thriving financial planning and investment practice that I co-own. That's prepared me to be, I think, what's made me a successful financial advisor has made me a successful mayor, and that's developing a plan and sticking with that plan through the ups and the downs that inevitably happen. It's making sure we don't cut and run when the going gets tough, and keeping the long view in mind. It's also being able to communicate with all different types of personalities and backgrounds. My clients are, they're the broad spectrum of people, and being able to listen to all of them and having that mutual respect and hearing their concerns and telling them what they need to do to get where they want to go. And then also a disciplined decision-making process, so that you don't make decisions on the fly. You carefully consider each decision and the potential ramifications, both short-term and then long-term. I think that's prepared me to be a good mayor, and it's served me well. I think over the last 3.5 years, I've developed strong relationships with everyone from local government, state government, federal government, all the agencies, and that's going to serve me well going into this next term as we continue to try to get as much grant money support from those organizations as we can to complete some of the big projects that Frankfort wants to accomplish. Okay.
Well, you just covered my next question, but could you talk a little bit about your leadership style?
My leadership style is one, I think of myself as a servant leader, where I am I lead. I'm not one who's going to be up front and say, this is what we need to do and we need to do it now. It's going to be more about finding out what the problems are, diagnosing the problems, mobilizing others to help us to accomplish those problems, and then finding the resources to help them be successful. I think that's my leadership style. It's not who talks the most or talks the loudest. It's just being in the room and asking the good questions and making sure that we have the right resources. And I think the most important thing is diagnosing what the problem actually is.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what you think the most pressing issues facing Frankfort are right now, today.
We have some of the short-term things that I'd like to go over, something like the bridge or the Taylor Avenue. But I think for me, though,
we'll get to those
the long-term things would be the need to improve our amenities so that we can continue to keep the people that live here and attract new residents and businesses to the city. That's how we're going to grow. And we've already taken important steps to invest in our parks, and we're working on an indoor pool and aquatic center. I think those types of things people want to see in the city of Frankfort. We're taking steps on that. And also, we need more housing.
Yeah.
And it's for all different income types, all different ages, all different locations in the city. And we're taking steps to do that. I think that is a critical need. I think if we had new housing, we're going to attract new residents right away, and that will open up other housing that's already, the housing stock that we already have, so that those will hit the market. Because I know how difficult it is right now to find a house that's suitable for a lot of people. But to do all those things, we need to also, one of the pressing needs is to raise revenue without raising taxes, and there's ways we can do that. We were successful a couple of years ago working with the state to increase the special contribution that they give the city of Frankfort for being the capital city. It's kind of like an in lieu of taxes payment.
Right.
Traditionally, it's been $195,000 a year. We were able to get that increased to $846,000 a year. But
that makes a big difference.
It needs to be much more.
Yeah.
And really, we need to get that put into we need a General Assembly to help us put in and codify that, so that we are getting what we need to. And that payment is primarily to be used for public safety. But anything we can get from state government to help us cover their critical assets that are here, buildings, employees, and any emergency there. It's the city of Frankfort that's going to be responding. Anything we can get from the state to cover that, that'll free up money for other projects.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the bridge. Well, actually, there's two bridges right now, and Taylor Avenue. What are your plans for improving infrastructure and especially bridges, roads, sewer lines? I know that the bridges are, at least the one is really more of a state issue than a city issue, but.
Yeah. Well, infrastructure in general, that's the things that people, I mean, it's not a sexy thing to talk about as a candidate, but when something breaks, then you realize, oh, it is important.
Right.
And I'll talk about the bridges first. The Singing Bridge, that's a critical artery downtown. I mean, for me especially. It is a major inconvenience for me, and I know many others, especially those that are going to Second Street School. We recognize the importance of that. Last year we started working with the state. Even though it is a state-owned bridge, the city, we recognize also that there's a bridge investment program that the federal government has. We went to the state and said we're interested in applying for this grant to upgrade the bridge so that it's going to be useful for another 50, 100 years. And we want to increase the tonnage, the weight limit, and we want to extend its lifespan. So we applied for a federal grant, and that application actually went in March, and with the state support. So that's going to be approximately $10 million. It's just under that, but that was meant to upgrade that bridge so that we're not having these issues every couple of years where the bridge is closed for an extended period and it's closed abruptly, because that's what that's what hurts the local businesses and disrupts things so much. So we already were ahead of the game on that. Unfortunately, the state fortunately the state has a regular schedule where they inspect the bridge. They inspect it once a year, and it was a regularly scheduled inspection where they found other deterioration. It appears that it was sidewalk related. So their state's working on that right now. They're developing a plan, but we're also hopeful that we're going to hear about this grant next month. And we actually met with Senator McConnell's staff a week before the bridge was closed about the bridge, about our application, to see if we can get a little extra help in pushing that through.
Okay. Well, you've talked about your financial background, but could you talk about the financial priorities when it comes to balancing the city's budget and maintaining our finances responsibly?
We've been one of the things I'm most proud of over this first term is to modernize our financial and investment policy statement. Mm-hmm. We have taken advantage of the interest rate environment and repositioned a lot of our reserves to earn more interest. So we are earning more interest on and investment income. We took a portion of our rainy day fund and allocated that to a higher growth investment, which has paid off. And so we're doing things like that. So because that revenue that we get, it hits our income statement, but it's not new tax revenue.
Right.
Also, we need to work with the state to get that increased allocation. And in this budget, which I was happy to support, not everyone on our commission supported the budget this year. We had people vote against it. I would say one piece of that was that we put a position in there, actually two positions for an auditor to help us identify, find revenue that we're not getting that we should be getting.
Right.
And that's something we can do to increase the revenue coming in so that we're not having to raise taxes.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the comprehensive plan and your priorities?
My priorities related to the comprehensive
mm-hmm.
plan. So the comprehensive plan, I know I've heard people say it's gone on too long. I've heard people say it hasn't. We're not taking enough time to properly discuss it. I think the sooner we get it behind us, the better, because I think whatever document comes from the Planning Commission in the City of Frankfort, we're going to have an opportunity to adopt that or not. I think whatever comes, we're going to be able, in the City of Frankfort, our city limits, we're going to be able to grow and work within that framework, because mm-hmm. we know what we need to do in the City of Frankfort, and I think whatever comes, we'll be able to work within that framework. The sooner we get it behind us, the better, because the next step of this process that people, I think, aren't paying enough attention to is that we're going to start to rewrite our existing regulations and our codes, and I think that's what's going to help us streamline and make it simpler to do development and to build the housing that we need here in the capital city. I think that's the next step, and the sooner we get this out of the way, the sooner we can get to that.
Okay. Well, how do you balance development with the preservation of rural and agricultural land in Frankfort and Franklin County?
Well, and some of these issues are Franklin County specific.
I know.
That will be a fiscal court decision on whether or not they rezone certain properties or not. But I think within the city limits, we are mindful of the history is one of the reasons that people come to Frankfort. It's one of the 10 oldest capital cities. We have a terrific stock of historic buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look back 100 years ago, there were so many more, and you got to keep that in mind. Like, it'd be nice we got to keep some of this character of our downtown, in particular, in our history. We have 3 national historic landmarks within a mile of each other, and that's, for a city our size, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
Having said that, we do need growth and we do need development, and I think we can work around a lot of those properties, particularly taking advantage of the sites that we have on parcels B and C where the Civic Center was.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we made the investment we made there was to get that, to catalyze that area of town so we can get new housing there. I think if we get new housing there, we get the new hotels, the refurbished hotel, we're going to start to see growth that we haven't seen in a long time. And we're already starting to see it.
Yeah.
And we're already starting to see properties being fixed up. The City of Frankfort, we a few years ago, we did some revitalization grants into some of these properties that are downtown, like Goodwood Brewery, where the House of Commons Bourbon Library is, the new Delegate Hotel that's about to open, and where the Engine House Coffee. City of Frankfort made investments into those properties with those owners to help. Now, I know it was not, the cost of those projects was much higher than our investment, but it was just a sign of we're willing to support those and to help you out with some of the cost. But to that end, we've also applied, and we're made aware this week that we received the National Park Service grant for $750,000, so we can do more of that. So that's something that the City of Frankfort can do to help the property owners to make improvements in their properties and fix these up, so that we can not only have the historic preservation, but make it feasible financially for these property owners to do it in a way that tourists are going to want to come visit.
Right. Well, beyond the housing needs, I mean, is there any kind of industries that you would personally like to see developed in Frankfort?
No, I think within the city, this is tech, creative, agriculture. When I say tech, it's all different types, but I think with Kentucky State just up the road, we have a tremendous opportunity with agriculture technology. The nursing program and healthcare, I think that's something that we can do. The new collar type jobs is what I call it. I think things that don't require a lot of land to grow. I know we have technology companies here that maybe have 150 employees that are not in the city, but they don't have a lot of land. They might be on an acre or two. And I think the higher density type jobs, financial services. I mean, we have one of the fastest growing financial services in the country here in Frankfort with Investors Heritage. Something like that, helping those businesses stay here. I think those are the things that I would be interested in the city limits. That's the things that we can handle in the city.
All right.
And government services too. We have, look around, we have a strong lobbying sector, and those types of jobs, they typically have higher incomes too. Higher incomes, higher occupational taxes.
Okay. Well, let's jump ahead to the indoor pool or the other pool.
Right.
There's talk of a pool, 2 pools, multiple pools. What do you think?
Multiple pools. The more the merrier. No, well, I'd say 10 years ago we had 3 pools. We had the downtown Y, we had the Exum Center, and then we had Prevention Park YMCA, which was a smaller pool, but used by a lot of people. And then 10 years later,
a few years before that, we had East Frankfort too.
We had East Frankfort.
Yeah,
those were the memories. And Juniper Hill. That's where I grew up, going to the Juniper Hill pool.
Right.
No, I'm committed to, and we're already working with our counterparts in the county, the school systems, the governor's office, KSU, to work toward multiple solutions. I support helping K-State to fix up the Exum Center pool, knowing that they're going to need to use the pool as well. So as long as we come to an appropriate agreement where our city residents can use it and it's something that's fair and equitable to all sides, I'm committed to helping with that, to get that open because it is already there. Also, I'm also committed to building a new indoor, not just an aquatic center, but a wellness center, something like the old Y that we had. I don't know, it doesn't have to have the same amenities, but it needs to have modern amenities, something that befits a capital city.
Okay. Well, the General Assembly included funding for a new Frankfort Convention Center in its budget. What's your plan to ensure the necessary additional funding that's needed for that?
Well, and that was something that was one of my priorities coming in office, was to get the new convention center built. And we were successful over a couple of different legislative terms and lobbying and discussing what we need with our President Stivers, Speaker Osborne, and our representatives, Derek Graham, Jay Williams, Dan Pfister. They were all instrumental in helping us get that funding. And I should say part of it is because of the investment that the City of Frankfort has already made downtown with the transit center and the parking structure. That was a sign. That was something I could go to leadership and say, see, City of Frankfort is willing to invest in this, and we need your help now to build a convention center. And it's not for the City of Frankfort. This convention center is for the entire Commonwealth. So this is our shared capital city. Everyone across the state is going to use this. So we need to make an investment and make Frankfort the showcase. So having said that, we were successful in getting the over $11 million, and there's going to be a match. The City of Frankfort's already, we have a funding source set aside to invest in our downtown and parks master plan, and we've already had discussions on taking some of those. We're going to issue a bond, taking some of that bond money and putting it toward this. I think at least $5 million is what's been discussed. And then we're working on the next part of that, working with the county and seeing if there's something we can do there. And when we're working on the RFP right now. Hopefully we'll have that out by the end of the year. And we're going to see what proposals come back, what the developers, what the bidders will say, and that might determine how much we put into this. Someone may get creative on some type of public-private partnership where we can fund this a different way. But we're going to see, we're encouraging, we're writing it in such a way where we're going to get a lot of creative proposals.
Okay. And location-wise, is that?
It's, I would say it's going to be near where the old one was, and that or adjacent.
Okay.
I think that's what makes most sense. I think from my standpoint, my opinion, is that it needs to be downtown.
Okay.
I think that's what people go to conventions. They don't want to be they want to be downtown. They want to be able to walk around during sessions, after sessions, go out, go back to their hotel.
Okay.
That's what's going to.
Do you have any ideas for enhancing tourism and promoting Frankfort's historical significance?
Oh, yes. Well, we have a lot of assets already, and I think one of the things we can do is tell our story. I think that's something that and we already do some of that, but Frankfort is unique. Everywhere I go, if I go to a convention or if I go to a conference or if I'm just traveling for recreational, people, they find out I'm from Frankfort, Kentucky, and they want to talk about bourbon's a big thing right now. Some of it's being told for us or being promoted for us. All we have to do is raise our game to match what people expect, and that's what I'm committed to doing. I think if we focus on, what we need to focus on right now is the infrastructure, lodging and transportation, and the amenities, restaurants and et cetera, shopping, retail. People are coming here. We need to complement that. And we have world-class distilleries around us. We need to have a world-class experience. And I think if we do that, that's going to go a long way.
Okay. What would you do to address concerns about crime and public safety in the city?
continue to, and we have had a drop in crime since overall crime. If you look at the total misdemeanors and felonies over the past 3 years, we've had, last time I looked, it was around a 30% drop, and plus or minus. Don't quote me on that exact number, but we've had a drop in total reported misdemeanors and felonies. And we continue to support our police department. I was happy that we increased, during this first term, we increased pay to first responders. We did a salary survey to see where we stood in relation to other communities, and we raised that pay. And we made a special allocation to those first responders. And we also included a lateral sign-on bonus so we could try to attract experienced officers that don't have to go through the training, that they could start day one. Those are things that we've already done to help bolster our existing police force. I think we've got allocated up to 63 sworn officers. We're not quite there,
right?
But once we get there, I'd consider going above that because I think if public safety is an issue, or people lose trust or think that your community is unsafe, all those other things we've talked about, tourism, economic development, they don't mean much, because you'll be set back 10, 20 years, and we can't. I don't want that.
Right.
So I'm committed to investing in our police force, including, we also hired 2 community policing advocates, and we're looking at hiring another to help, and just think social worker within the police force that will respond to some of these situations that are more social, mental illness or drug related, maybe some domestic situations where we don't need a full-on show of force. And I think that's gone a long way to improving our the capabilities of our entire police force.
Right. Well, could you talk a little bit about transparency in local government and communication with the citizens?
I think communications is one of our pillars of our strategic plan. We call it telling our story, but some of that is just telling the public what's going on. And to that end, we put money in the budget for, we call it a public information officer. It's communications specialist, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And we're close to making that, I don't know if we're making that hire, or at least assigning those duties to an employee, where that we're going to be more proactive in getting the word out on everything that's happening in city government, so that it is more transparent. And not that there's anything, it's like we're hiding anything, it's just that we're not, we could do so much more to tell what's going on, because I know there's a lot of misinformation that gets spread. At least I hear about it.
Yeah.
People will take screenshots of comments or something and send them to them, like, did you see this? That's not right at all.
Right.
And because a lot of that's just putting the right word out. Now, this is why we're doing something, or this is why we have to do something. But I think this communications person is going to be instrumental. Newsletters, maintaining our social media, and just telling our story on what we're doing as a commission. And I think if we did that, sometimes people will say to me, like, oh, I didn't realize you already doing that. You should tell. You need to get the word out. I know, exactly. That's what we need to do. I think this next term, that's going to be one of the needs that we have, one of the pressing needs.
Okay. Well, we're at that point where you get to look into the camera over my left shoulder. There's a big yellow sign over there. Talk directly to the viewers. Ask them to vote. Ask them to vote for you. Tell them about our baseball career. Whatever you want to do.
Well, Steve S. and I had a long and illustrious baseball career together, and I appreciate you reporting on it those years ago, making me look good back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
I'm Mayor Layne Wilkerson, and I'm proud of what we've done in this first term. Frankfort is having a moment right now. You just look around, you see a remarkable amount of private investment happening, and the city is bolstering that. We were successful in securing, or close to securing, approximately $50 million in state and federal funds to help us with some of these projects. And that's going to go a long way, whether it's the new convention center, the $20 million for Home Street, money for the Singing Bridge, riverbank stabilization. We're working on all of these things, and there's more to come. We're just getting started. And I think also that right now we need a steady and thoughtful leader at the helm, somebody who understands how to be mayor and how to represent our city as mayor. I have that experience, and we also need somebody that has the patience to see some of these transformational projects through. I've proven I can be that leader, and I ask for your vote on November 5th.
Well, Mayor, thank you for dropping by and seeing us today. I know our viewers appreciate that, and I would like to remind the viewers that Tuesday, November 5th, get out and vote, and then join us on Channel 10 to see the results coming in from the county clerk's office. Thanks again for joining us this morning. Have a good one.